How's it going? Hopefully pretty well. This is going to be kind of interesting. I'm going to try to not swear a whole lot. I mean, the idea of this whole series that I personally like to call Red Band, I don't know, it's probably because Red Band trailer's a little bit more uncensored. Like I was saying, the idea is to be a little bit more uncensored, a little bit more genuine, but I don't want to swear a whole lot because, YouTube doesn't like that. But I'm still going to try to give my opinions and do so in my own unique way that sometimes skews towards the adult realm. So just throwing that out there. So anyway, if you're a gamer, this could be kind of good news. I'm hopefully optimistic, right? On Wednesday, Senator Josh Hawley, I'm just going to call him Josh, Senator Josh, not my senator, but announced that he would be introducing a bill banning manipulative design features in video games with underage audiences, including the sale of loot boxes. Games marketed towards wider audiences could also face penalties from regulators like the Federal Trade Commission if companies knowingly allow children to purchase these randomized crates. Alright, generally speaking, I don't like the government to get involved when it doesn't need to. I generally like to allow consumers to justify a business plan or shift a company's current projection or business model. Like a real world example would be EA with Battlefield 5. Was that 5? Shit, who knows anymore. The World War II one, yeah, it was 5. What they did is they did a bad thing. They were trying to make a somewhat accurate World War II game, and then they disrespected World War II, which is a big no-no. You don't do that. You don't rewrite World War II and then try to say it's accurate. People don't like that. Why? Because everyone knows that World War II was a bad time. And then they called their players stupid. Or don't play the game, or you're not educated. That was it. So what happened? People like me, people who respect the sacrifices of our World War II veterans, and I don't feel that World War II needs to be changed or altered to fit some sort of current idea set, because that's not what World War II was. World War II was its own separate entity, and what happened? Nobody was buying it. No one wanted it. They're like, you don't want me to buy your game? I'm not going to buy your game. Maybe you shouldn't rewrite World War II. How about that? And the idea is that when a company loses that much money, they should reevaluate their business model, how they're going to run things. Because when a company loses money on a product, like say for example, I don't know, a Fleshlight introduces an Amy Reed Fleshlight, even though she's retired. What would happen if nobody bought it? They'd stop making it, and then they would discount the ones that they have, and then they would adjust their plan. They would get rid of that product. Well, it works I feel like it works the same way with, loot boxes and stuff like that. If people didn't buy them, game companies wouldn't push towards them. My problem is that I can kind of see what Senator Josh is saying. He's saying these loot boxes target children in a lot of instances, and even adults, to be honest with you. And that's kind of my problem. My problem is that it's not just kids, it's adults. And he says, or in the legislation, it's children under the age of 18. Well, most video games are, 17? Isn't that what rated M is, 17 or above? So then what you're going to have is, it's always a back and forth, right? You're going to have game makers adjusting to work through a loophole, or so on and so forth, and then the lawmakers have to write more laws, and we get more laws on the books and more regulation and so on and so forth. And generally speaking, I don't like the government getting involved in stuff. Not if they don't have to. Because generally the government is big and clunky and doesn't do things very well when it involves really fine details. I mean, we can run a war, but to stick with that, look at the VA. Nothing changed there for a long time. And that's dealing with people who are generally considered some of the populace's most honorable citizens, those who serve their country and so on and so forth. So yeah, I kind of see the whole idea. I understand what he wants, and I actually agree with it. And that's something coming from me, because generally I'm like, yo, you guys don't really play video games, so what the fuck do you know? But in this case, we can't seem to get the upper hand, because a lot of gamers don't like this stuff. They don't like to have to pay more, and this is kind of what scares me, because I look at the Division. Now, the Division 2 held a fairly... It wasn't a bad loot box, loot crate, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Every game calls it something different. It wasn't terrible. They told you what you were going to get. You got what they told you, so, it was okay. The problem that I had was the story, okay? And I realize that it's a shoot and loot, or loot and shoot. I guess it really depends on, when the enemies show up. But the problem I had with the game was that there wasn't much of a story. And then they're saying, well, we're going to extend the story through DLCs. If I'm not mistaken, some will venture off over here and venture off over there. Probably argue that content should have been in the game with its initial release. You're not really extending the story, because we didn't get much of a story. Hey, spoiler alert for anyone right here. We turned on the network. That's it. That's all we did. We didn't get Keener or anyone like that, or whatever his name is. We just turned on the network, or whatever that thing was. We turned it back on, and everyone's like, oh, yay, happy times, happy times. But to me, I'm like, that's not a story. There's nothing there. Some of the best games I've played, like, I couldn't tell you how many times I've played through Halo, like the original one, and Halo 2, double digits, guaranteed, probably somewhere around 20 or more times. But look at Halo 1. Halo 1 came out in, 2000? And now I'm starting to get bored with it when I play through it. Took 19 years for that game to make me bored. And my concern, and I know I'm kind of beating around the bush here, but my concern is that if you get rid of their microtransactions, these companies are so focused on them now. They spend so much money, almost absurd amounts of money developing a game, that gets boring quickly, because they don't care about the content. They don't care what they shove down our throats as a story. All they care about is putting their best people, or the most people that they have, on creating content that you can buy, because that's where they feel like they're going to make their money, rather than making a game that's really good and being financially responsible with the money that they have to make that game. They don't want to do that. So I really struggle with this idea, only because I don't think game companies are going to let this go. They're not going to give it up without a fight. Because it's a big thing for them. It's a lot of money. It's a huge part of their business plan. And I'm kind of worried, as I was getting to, and I kind of got off track like 2 minutes ago. I'm kind of worried that they're going to start breaking up the story, kind of like what the Division feels like they're doing. They're breaking up the story, and then they're going to sell it to you in blocks later. So you get to play half the game when you buy it, and then if you're willing to spend $39.99, you can play the other half. And the problem is that I don't foresee that going all that far. But they're going to find another way to monetize it. They're going to find another way to make money. Why don't I see that going far? And I'll tell you, it's because most people don't care about the story anymore. Most people don't give a shit about a good game. You want to know how? Go buy a brand new game, aside from a Rockstar release that will force you to play the story, and see how many people are playing online. I couldn't tell you the number of people I know that will buy a game and just play it online. They never play through the full story. They'll get halfway through and then they quit. And some people might say, well, then they're just following the demand with the supply. But I've never really known game developers to really give a shit what we want. We've been screaming for ages, hey, get rid of the microtransactions and actually give us something that you can be proud of. Something that's complete upon release, that you don't have to patch 12 hours later in some rush to get it done because people who spent their money are complaining. They don't do that. So Senator Josh said, social media and video games prey on user addiction, siphoning our kids' attention from the real world and extracting profits from fostering compulsive habits. He also said, no matter this business model's advantages to the tech industry, I've mentioned that, one thing is clear, there is no excuse for exploiting children through such practices. And, I think he's being a bit narrow with this. He's only worried about them exploiting children, but they're going to find another way to exploit people, adults, people's passion, or, some people really find playing games to be their passion. To me, it's a hobby. I enjoy it. I wouldn't call it my passion. All right. I really do. I love it, but it's just not at the passion level, right? But he's not wrong. They create games that have a rank up system designed to addict the player, and then they say, well, if you don't like the grind, you can pay, or if you're getting your ass kicked, well, pay to win, because all they want is that extra money. It's not good enough that they sold probably millions of copies on launch. Now they have to continue to get paid all the way through. If they were going to give you like a complete story, beginning, middle, end, complete story arc, and then like every other game and movie in the world, they figure out how to do a sequel off of that story, then I would say, all right, no problem. If you want to give me extra content and you want me to pay for it for like a secondary story, like, The Lost or The Ballad in GT, and I understand it because it's a side story. It's completely different content. It's a different story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The problem is that they want to get paid for doing almost no work. They don't want to put in the effort to make such content. They want as little effort and high reward, and they don't deserve it. And as much as I want to just blame the video game industry, I can't just blame them because it's not just their fault. It's the fault of the parents. When a 2-year-old has a tablet, that's a problem. When a 5-year-old has a tablet or a cell phone, that's a problem. I've seen both those cases in person. 2-year-olds and 5-year-olds shouldn't have phones or tablets, but the reason why parents are doing it is because they don't want to pay attention to their kids. You don't want to parent your kid. You don't want to babysit or watch your kid. You shove it in front of their face and they shut up for a while and you don't have to listen to them. And I understand, they've been going for hours and hours and hours and hours and you're tired of it. You just want to be left alone. You want to relax. But that's your problem. It's your kid. Parent the kid. I can't blame it all on the companies. If you give them a loophole to exploit to make money, they're gonna take it. When I blame the kid is when you get kids that are old enough to know, and then they take their parents' credit card and then they spend. You hear about it all the time with Fortnite. They spend hundreds of dollars on V-Bucks. My mother would have killed me if I pulled something like that. She would have killed me. She'd just killed me dead. That's it. And then you get parents who complain, oh, my kid saw this on the internet or my kid heard that. Well, yeah, you gave them access to the internet. Your 8-year-old has access to the internet because you allowed it. Don't blame the internet for being what the internet always has been. If you put a 8-year-old in an enclosure with a crocodile, sure, he run around on the grass, kid might be fine. Gets too close to the crocodile bites him, yanks him in the water, never seen again. And you can't blame the crocodile for doing what the crocodile's always done. It's not the crocodile's fault. It's not the internet's fault that this is happening. So yeah, I blame parents too, not just for the microtransactions, but for when they complain that the internet is harming my child. The internet's not harming your child. You're harming your child. Let's move on because I'm kind of getting into a rant. Pay-to-win mechanics in games targeted at minors would also be outlawed under this legislation. See, that's a kind of a problem. I'm not a big fan about the government instituting more legislation. We barely keep up with all the laws we have on the books as it is. In some cases, we don't. And I understand that. It's just, you can't, it's a clogged system. But at the end of the day, I don't see microtransactions ending, but they're not even saying it ends. with this. It's just ends for kids. So they're going to get their heads together at the tech companies, and then they're going to be like, well, how can we turn this and just target adults? Because that's where they get a lot of their money. It's not everyday gamers like you or me. It's people who are like whales, like casino whales, people who come in and they blow lots of money. We're talking about people who might spend hundreds of dollars a week on the game on their phone that they like to play, and that's what made it a viable business model. Some people, they don't have a middle ground. They don't have a just cruising speed. It's 0 or 100. I knew a guy like that. He loved to collect guns. And I'm like, yo, man, you doing all right? Because you're buying like a gun a week. All right? Just, and I understood he liked to collect guns and go target shooting, It's just kind of scary for me because he was blind as a bat. But, luckily, I think I only went target shooting with him once. Anyway, and you get people like him who have no middle ground, make $700, blow the majority of it on whatever the hobby is, and then complain that you don't have money for bills. Well, tough shit. Well, the same people do it with video games. It's the same mindset. It's their addiction. It's their hobby. Everyone has an addiction. Some people are addicted to sex, porn, cigarettes, alcohol, eating, and some people are addicted to some stupid fucking video game that more than likely in 10 years it will be a different game that they're addicted to, but they still dumped thousands upon thousands of dollars, and it's those people that they will turn and try to target and then suck in more people to this mindset. Because let's face it, as a society, as a species, we're pretty stupid. We follow the crowd. Look at teenagers. Teenagers are biting Tide Pods. And you think, well, I'm not a teenager. I'm in my 20s. So I wouldn't do that. Well, look at people in their 20s. They're not much smarter. So they're just gonna switch. If they can't target kids, they'll find someone else. They're going to take a hit to their bottom line, but they're going to find another way to screw it to us, because the idea of just releasing a good game, a really good game, that's not going to happen anymore. They're not going to do that. They don't care. And again, take The Division. I played that game for 2 weeks, and I'm already off doing other things like playing Hawks. Jeez, that's been a long time. Playing Ace Combat or playing Ghost Recon, because it's gotten boring. Why? Because while it's a good game, it's not good enough to keep my attention, because they didn't put enough effort into the story, into the world, for things to find other than loot. Well, guess what? I found everything. Everything I'm interested in, I found. But give them a little while, and for the low price of probably $40, I can add an extension on, and maybe I will. It depends. And that's the point I'm making. They're just going to find another means. But moving on with the article, these games are often available for free, and certain levels or tasks are easy to overcome with stronger weapon ability or so on, that can only be obtained through microtransactions, pay to win. It would also apply to multiplayer games that empower players to spend more in microtransactions to easily compete against those who don't. Struggling with words today, as every other day. Yeah, that happens. Generally speaking, I tend to see more examples of people paying money to look different in a game. Go play Fortnite. See how many people run around in stock character. They don't, because they spend money to look differently, and everyone has their own idea of what's valuable for their cash, right? But it's a business model. They release the game for free, but then you got to pay for pretty much everything in the game. And I understand the idea behind it, but I'd almost rather they not release a game for free and make getting stuff in the game moderately acceptable. Grand Theft Auto had a grind, but I could get everything in Grand Theft Auto without having to spend $1 if I was willing to grind. Using the CEO missions, it's been a long time, 6-8 months. I was able to make, $1 million in a handful of hours. So If I knew that DLC was coming out, I could grind and get the stuff that I wanted, and that was that. And I respect that. I don't like the grind, but I respect that they don't force me to pay. When a game is designed for kids, game developers shouldn't be allowed to monetize addiction. Senator Josh said it. He also went on to say when kids play games designed for adults, they should be walled off from compulsive microtransactions. Game developers who knowingly exploit children should face legal consequences. Well, he kind of said that before, but yeah, of course, games should not try to exploit children. And frankly, it's going to make it difficult on the game designer, developers, I'll find a word, because right there, when kids play games designed for adults, they should be walled off from compulsive microtransactions. How do you want to do that? The idea is you gotta be 17 years old, show your ID, or have a parent to buy a game. Well, the problem is that you find parents buying their kids games because, yeah, they want their kid to be happy, but they either don't know what the game is, or they say, oh, well, my kid's responsible. He's a responsible child. He or she's a responsible child. You know, they know it's just a game, and then you get a kid who's 10, 11, 12 years old playing Grand Theft Auto 5, which was not a game for kids at all, like less than probably any of the ones before it. And how you gonna stop that? You don't know how old the person is. They're not required to divulge their real information. Most people aren't going to feel comfortable giving up a driver's license number, and then it becomes a situation of you can't get people to give up driver's licenses to vote. What makes you think they're going to do it to play a game? And they already have access to a credit card through mom and dad's credit card. So, well, how are you going to prove that they're an adult? You can't. It comes down to what the parent's willing to spend. Loot boxes and microtransactions are prominent features in mobile games. Yeah, and that's why I don't play mobile games, because they tend to suck. And I don't need to be entertained every minute of my life. I don't need to have my phone with me to do everything. And I hate that. I can't stand it. You go to dinner with somebody, they're sitting there staring at their phone. Well, hey, I'm here, with you. I'm here to talk to you. But that's because I remember a time before that. I remember when you would go there and you would sit there and you would talk to somebody, you'd have a great time. Now they're sitting there staring at their phone. And I can understand if you're talking about something, they say, oh, I got something to show you on that because you'll find it really interesting. I get that. But when you're just sitting there texting, pisses me off. Don't like it. And some of you might be like, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. It's wrong. It's wrong and it's rude. That's all. But moving on, and I don't need to be entertained every second of my life. That's why I don't play mobile games. I don't need to have it on the shitter when pinching off a loaf. Don't need it. I can stand to not have entertainment shoved at me constantly. But the trend has made its way into big budget games like Overwatch, PUBG, FIFA, from multiple AAA studios like Blizzard and Electronic Arts. Yet you're also forgetting Call of Duty. Never before in any game that I've dealt with loot boxes has it felt more like gambling. I'm not kidding. It is terrible. I open a supply crate or whatever the fuck they call them. 3 cards pop up, spin around, spin around, spin around. And generally it's garbage. I feel like I'm playing a slot machine. Put in a quarter, pull the handle, and watch the damn thing go. Well, I don't know if they still have, I don't know, they might just have buttons now. And I'm like, is this Call of Duty or is this Las Vegas? Because if I want to gamble, I'll go to Vegas. I'm not going to go to some rinky-dink piece of shit casino. I'm going to go to Vegas. So if it's Call of Duty, I'll play Call of Duty. But if I want to gamble, I'm going to Vegas. It's that simple. I'm not looking to gamble on a game. And then they say, oh, well, if you want what you want, well, it's only available right now through supply crate. So you can spend money and you can buy supply crates and you might get it. Yeah, that's called gambling, asshole. That's exactly what it is. It's gambling. I spend money for a chance to get something I want. Something that has a value towards me. It doesn't always have to be money. Someone should contact Vegas about this. Because other countries have said, like, I think Germany and maybe Australia, like, hey, it's not gambling. No. You contact Vegas and you have Vegas look at it. And if Las Vegas says it's gambling, it's gambling. Because they know two things. They know gambling and they know whores. If they say it's gambling, it's gambling. If they say she's a whore, she's a whore. It's that simple. Anyway, the leading video game trade industry, the Electronic Software Association, responded to the proposal by saying that other countries have determined that loot boxes do not constitute gambling. And it's something that they've been criticized for saying in the past or whatever. I just said that. I just said, you know what? I don't care what other countries say. Vegas is the king shit of gambling. If they say it's gambling, it's gambling. But I don't think anyone's ever asked them. Because I guarantee if you could find a decent way for a casino to monetize that, they would. And that's my point. These people are turning games into little casinos. I can't open a casino on my own. If I do, government doesn't like that. Why can they? Why is it acceptable for them? And I'm sure there's some legal loophole that they're exploiting like they always do, but it's a problem. We look forward to sharing with the senator the tools and information the industry already provides that keeps the control of in-game spending in parents' hands. ESA's acting president and CEO Stanley Pierre Louis, something along those lines, said, parents already have the ability to limit or prohibit in-game purchases with easy-to-use parental controls. The problem is that kids can get around parental controls. And that's the problem, is that, yeah, I understand that the senator is kind of chasing a shadow here. He's chasing something that is kind of in the parents' hands. But at the end of the day, he's also, in a way, working to protect the vast majority of gamers. Because here's the thing, he's not saying adults. Why? Because adults don't garner votes. Adults should be smart enough. And the problem is that as a community, we have no say. The developers don't care because they're still making money through stupid adults and stupid kids and their stupid fucking parents. And that's the problem. The rest of us who don't like this and who feel that games as a whole, as narrative-driven experiences with online play that can introduce you to fun experiences and new people, as a whole, it's taken a deep slide down this fucking hill, and there's nothing we can do because they're not gonna listen to us. They just keep throwing weights on the sled to make it go faster without ever considering what's at the bottom of the hill, or even if there is a bottom. It could be a cliff, who knows? I mean, I think that might be a bit extreme, but you get the idea, right? These new rules would be enforced by the Federal Trade Commission, which already reportedly opened an investigation into the sale of loot boxes after Senator Maggie Hassan, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, Democrat from New Hampshire, questioned the commissioners over the practice last fall. In February, a letter, FTC Chairman Joe Simmons would not confirm the existence of an investigation, but he told Hassan that the commission would hold a series of workshops with both consumer advocates and the game industry on loot boxes later this year. Oh, that's great. Hold a bunch of workshops with consumer advocates who more than likely vary in their experience and their connection to the game industry. Don't believe me? Go look into your average video game reporter and tell me how much of a gamer they are and how much of someone who's just trying to push their ideas. And here's the thing, I'm not a political person. I like to sit in the middle and hold my constitution and say I'm not right and I'm not left. I'm just sitting here with my rights. And tell me how well they're gonna defend the gamers, because they've done a great job so far. Generally, they attack the gamers. Just saying the truth, or at least the truth that I have seen as of recent. I'll be honest, I've stopped looking into the articles a lot because it's just stupid. I didn't review this game because it didn't sit right with me. Well, fuck you. I don't care what your personal opinions are. I want to know if the game's good. Anyway, and the game industry, yeah, because they're gonna volunteer to say, you know, this money making machine we got, it's wrong, it's immoral, and we're gonna stop it. No, they're not gonna do that. What kind of naive fairy tale world are you living in, man? That's not gonna happen. And that's really all this has to say that's of any value. Um, Might have skipped some things that weren't so important, but the point of it is that loot boxes at best do target minors and people who are willing to be idiots and spend that kind of money on a game that doesn't quite matter and won't matter in a bunch of years. But hey, you know, everyone's got their sense of what's their money's worth. And like I said, I understand that. But it also is gambling. There's no way around it. A loot box is gambling. Now, this is about microtransactions as a whole. And as a whole, I don't like them. You want to make me buy extra content that is sold as like a after the story, side story game, you know, not just selling me the other half of the story, then all right, I'm on board. And as long as, you know, or if you want to do like a DLC with map packs and maybe a couple weapons, I can see that as long as the weapons aren't so good and they're within the range of the other guns, and I can see that fine too. Okay. That way, if I don't buy it and other people do, I'm not getting screwed by the people who spent money. That way, it's not pay to win. It's just a different gun. It's a different weapon, and I can see that. And they're just mainly paying for the cosmetic look of having a different gun or the other maps. As microtransactions, that's fine to me. I'm okay with that. And do I care so much about weapon skins and other cosmetic things? Not really, no. But I don't like the fact that a lot of games have it completely behind a paywall. It's not that you can earn them, it's just behind a paywall. That's it. You either buy it or you don't. Or it's kind of behind a paywall where you got to earn loot boxes again and gamble for it. You see the problem? If I want it, I got to buy it. But okay, sure, but the thing is, I already paid for the game, and it should be available to me to unlock through in-game use. And the other option is, let's Ghost Recon. They have different weapons and stuff that I can only purchase. That's it. I believe that. I think they just put the AA-12 in there. As far as I know, I don't play it a lot. I can only buy it. So if I want that, I have to spend money to get it. And I can see as how that would be annoying and that'd be a problem. People spending money, it feels like pay to win. I'm not entirely sure. Again, I barely played that game online, like PvP, like at all. So I can't speak too intelligently about that. But what I can say is that as a whole, microtransactions suck. They are the sandpaper underwear of the video game industry. They are annoyingly becoming more and more prevalent, and the industry saying, well, we need to make our money back. Well, maybe you should be a little bit more fiscally responsible with how you make the game. I refuse to believe that games went from costing a handful of millions of dollars to, I think what GTA was a couple $100 million, 100 something. I refuse to believe that. I don't see how or where. With the technology improving, I don't understand. I don't understand how with improving technology you cannot improve and streamline the video game process without cutting jobs, because I don't want anybody to be out of work. That's terrible. But I refuse to believe that you cannot find a middle ground, that you cannot streamline this aspect, make it a little bit easier, improve the workflow so these people who don't lose their jobs can make the game faster without sacrificing quality. Maybe spend some of that money that you save on actually hiring good story writers and people who actually have a passion for stories. And maybe if you can't make money off of your consumers after they've paid for your product, you might actually give a damn about putting out a good product rather than half-assing it, just putting out a product that's highly addictive with a system, with a progression system that is made to trigger human impulse and addiction problems. Because don't tell me that game companies don't look into that. Don't tell me that they don't look into the psychology of addiction, and then build the framework of the game and the progression system to feed off of human addiction. I don't believe that. All right, and that's just my personal opinion. I don't care to look into it, but don't tell me you can't do that. Don't tell me that you cannot make a good game with a great story with good online that doesn't involve microtransactions. Best Call of Duty game. Okay, World at War was fun. I enjoyed that game. Call of Duty 4 had a fantastic story. It wasn't terribly long or short, if I recall. It's been a long time. And the online play was just fun. It was fun. It was probably some of my favorite experiences on Call of Duty. I didn't need to have special weapon skins, and if people had special paint jobs on their gun, it was because they were good. It's because they earned that blue tiger or whatever. I don't know. I always thought that looked like a Smurf jizzed on the gun. Or the red tiger camo, which I didn't care for either one. All right, but they earned it. So if they had it, it was because they earned it. And now they don't care. It's just about pushing things that they can sell. Video games and the industry have turned into an interactive garage sale. You can have this, you can be here, you can be part of this, as long as you're willing to buy our junk for a few dollars a piece at a time. And it's ridiculous, and it's stupid, and frankly, a lot of us are just kind of tired of it. We just want a decent game that doesn't get boring after a week or two, that we can play online and have fun. And we can earn the same gear and the same equipment and have the same type of loadout, even if it means that we have to earn it and work a little bit harder. And that's part of the problem. Nobody wants to earn anything anymore, so they'll spend the money so they can just buy it. And you say, well, they earned the money, but they didn't earn the item they got. Not through the game. And frankly, that's kind of one of the disappointing elements of video games. And it's sad because other media are working hard to be better. Films work very hard to improve, and they make strides to put out more and more interesting stories. They could half-ass it. They could pull a 1980s and just pump out cheesy action flicks that are garbage. And yeah, they do still do that. But they also put out concerted efforts of telling good stories. And that's what a game is. A game is a story that you can play. It's a story that you walk through the eyes of your character. And that's what it should be. And then online play should be about having fun with other gamers, with other players, without having to worry about opening your wallet to do anything. And that is maybe the biggest travesty of this entire thing. It's not just the microtransactions as a whole. It's not that, it's not the gambling element of loot boxes. It's the fact that as a whole, gaming is not what I remember it to be. It's changed. It's changed a lot, and not for the better. And I personally hope, and I never thought I would say this, but I kind of hope that the government finds a good way to put an end to a lot of these microtransactions. And I never thought I'd say that because, as a rule, if the government gets involved, it gets complicated and it gets fucked up. But I don't see much choice. Because the game developers and all these guys, they're not listening. They don't care what we have to say. We've been screaming, we don't like it, but they're still making money off of it. And apparently, parents are, obviously they want to make their kids happy, so they're going to keep shelling out the money. And people who are, the whales of these communities who spend a lot of money, they're obviously going to keep shelling out money. And then you got the person who buys the, occasional odd or end, and they're going to keep doing it. So as long as these companies make money, they're not going to change their business plan or their business model. I think that's the right word I was looking for. So the only way that that's going to happen is if the government steps in. And I never thought I'd say that I would look forward to the government kind of coming in here and setting some rules, but maybe the rules have to be set. Without the rules to stop them, they're going to keep doing it because they're making money. And what this is about is that video game developers and alike and tech companies and all them, they're making money, so they're not going to stop unless there's a rule that says you can't do this anymore. So if you're watching this, and you're probably tired of me complaining because I've been doing it for a while now, who knows where it's going to go. I kind of hope it turns out good for us, the everyday gamers who aren't buying this stuff, and maybe we can find some sort of middle ground that at least curtails a lot of these microtransactions, because they're really kind of killing the games. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. How many games out there are not as good because of microtransactions? A lot. I mean, a lot. Because they don't care about producing good games with good mechanics and with a complete game. How about that, right? And also with a compelling story. They don't care, because it's not about that. That's not where they make their money. They make their initial sale price, but that's not good enough. They have to make more. And I'm going off and ranting again, so I'm done. I'm done. All right. Thanks for sticking around. See you later. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I'm done. I can't do it.